Mario Kart Double Dash, because 2 bitches are better than 1. I'm not monetized yet, so I still have the right to swear within like the first 8 seconds or so. Woohoo. As the winner of a recent poll I did, Double Dash seems to be the game you're all most intrigued to have put to the test. Funnily enough, Double Dash was the game I was most interested in covering on this channel myself, so safe to say I'm looking forward to this one. So yeah, I'll stop delaying it now. Pointless intros are boring, last place time. Double Dash has 2 main stinkers for most people in its track selection, Dry Desert and Sherbet Land, and I'm sure many of you are unenthusiastically waiting to see which scored last. Waluigi Stadium is one of the best tracks in future games, yet in Double Dash it is an underwhelming slog. Whilst I love Waluigi Stadium usually, Double Dash's version has less excitement, thrill and spectacle. After all, for a course set in a high intensity stadium, the colours are oddly moody and depressing with all the shit coloured terrain, something that is remedied in A where all the colours are far more vibrant. Furthermore, the stimulation that's supposed to be created from launching off all these ramps simply isn't there thanks to Double Dash's physics engine. Whilst the bumpy nature of this game usually winds up to be in the game's benefit, in this instance, it leads to the layout of Waluigi Stadium feeling unsatisfying to traverse throughout its entire duration. Add on how you're awkwardly locked in place horizontally whilst airborne in Double Dash, and it results in me not wanting to go off ramps most of the time. Considering how we also now have the trick system, having tracks from the older games be themed entirely around launching off ramps feels very out of place and uncanny. Waluigi Stadium is just an absolute mess of a track in this entry, and it baffles me how the Double Dash version specifically gets far less hate than the 2 actual unpopular ones from this selection. For the love of God, can Nintendo stop bringing back Daisy Cruiser? It's in 4 games now, and I only slightly tolerate one of them, being this version. You don't want to know where I put in the other games. Daisy Cruiser and Double Dash feels a bit different to every other version of Cruiser, with almost every part of that being for the better. For example, in this version, the opening section of the track requires by far the most input from the player, since by removing access to the left path and the pool, the track now requires the player to swerve all the way around the pool, which is way more engaging. Likewise, another way this version ends up being more interesting to me is due to how the hole leading to the cargo room actually feels more like a punishment path. This is due to said punishment being far more severe, since you lose all your speed, alongside the route housing an ill-lit cargo room instead of a vibrant, happy aquarium. Would be nice if I ever fell in it though. Maybe I should go touch some grass, but I myself still find it quite undemanding to avoid. Skilled issue, I suppose. And then there's the other things I don't like about all the versions of Cruiser. That being that the tables are easy to avoid, and that around 2/5 of the track feel like nothing of note is happening. To finish off, I think someone forgot to turn on the lights for the rest of the Cruiser. Why is it so unbelievably dark? I doubt this is the case for most people watching the video, but for me, this kills the atmosphere completely. Daisy Cruiser's a bit of a mixed bag, I have no real need to replay this one again. The year of motherfucking Luigi, and it's only 14th, I see why it flopped. Luigi Circuit is well known by most of the community as one of the very few actual interesting starter tracks. This is due to its concept of having most of the track intercept on itself, meaning that hypothetically you would have to face items from people like 7 spots behind you head on. Notice how I said hypothetically. Unfortunately, the concept kinda falls flat on its face, since as the footage should hopefully showcase, there isn't a lot of interception shenanigans commencing. That brings me to my point. I think most of the chaos from Luigi Circuit is very over-exaggerated. Whilst those moments of tension as you try and swerve around an 8th place Bowser shell on a top spot can still happen, there's just as many occasions where everyone would have already passed what I have dubbed the interception zone, leading to that section being completely empty. I believe that this is caused by the 2 turns that transition you onto the interception zone being overly drawn out, as is starter course tradition. Wait, why are 3 of these Luigi tracks? For example, me and another player are way ahead of everyone, but by the time we complete the turn and get back onto the straightaway, everyone is already off it simply due to it taking too long to complete. As a result, that just leaves Luigi Circuit, when it doesn't work as intended, to just be a pretty basic but inoffensive circuit course. Opening up what would be the equivalent of a B tier if this was a tier list video is Baby Park. Wait, isn't this just Luigi Circuit again? Simple oval shape, mainly focuses on the item chaos. This is just Luigi Circuit again. It's a fraud! Someone copyright this shit. However, the reason I like Baby Park more than Luigi Circuit is because it feels better built around making the best use of Double Dash's ridiculously chaotic items. Everything is tightly condensed, so small to the point where the track needs to be 7 laps, and items can jump over the middle of the track, guaranteeing that you'll have to contend with other people's towards items. Double Dash's physics also work wonders for Baby Park, with getting hit not feeling unbearably punishing unlike, let's say, Mario Kart 8, alongside the slippery handling being tuned in a way where weaving around items makes you feel like an absolute god. The only reason why Baby Park isn't higher is because I'm not always in the mood for a frantic mess, but it certainly achieves what it aims to do to great success. Okay guys, controversial take incoming, and I mean a wild one, a real controversial one. Mario Circuit is bad. No, obviously that's not it. I wouldn't hype up an entry on the list that much for nothing. Okay, actually, maybe I would. Rainbow Road.
Look, mind the virus has infected Mario Kart once more.
Compared to most Rainbow Roads, Double Dashes doesn't feel like a standout to me. However, layout-wise, it ain't half bad. I think the U-turns at the start are well done, and very satisfying to drift through. The zigzaggy road before the tube of the game, whilst not being the most challenging, still usually has me on the edge of my seat due to Double Dash's touchy controls making it really easy to mess up on that part. However, the section which intrigues me most is the big upward spiral littered with boosts that are bound to send you flying off if you don't drive extremely carefully. An absolute nightmarish section which can feel extremely rewarding to trudge through successfully. But now onto the negatives. Although the sections highlighted before are pretty gripping, a large majority of the track's remaining runtime is just so nothing. The straightaway leading to the upward spiral, nothing's happening. The final long turn, nothing's happening. And it also feels pretty awkward to take. Boosting along the giant straightaway after the cannon also isn't very entertaining to me, considering this is meant to be the final portion of the track. Like, that's it? This is your finale to a Rainbow Road? So unbelievably anticlimactic, especially to a track that already kind of feels like it drags on. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy Rainbow Road, but the best of the best, it certainly is not.
Woke society.
Timmy, what is this?
What's what? Oh yeah, don't you have a channel dedicated to this track?
It's not even in the top 3?
It's not in the top 10. Wario Colosseum is a track infamous for being a thrilling rollercoaster-like drive. It's extremely twisty and turny, but never feels unfair as if I had no time to react to an upcoming turn. Additionally, the jumps in Wario Colosseum, unlike Waluigi Stadium, feel very suspenseful due to the scenarios being quite a bit more interesting. Jumping into a giant cage dome feels pretty sick. The one where there isn't even a ramp at all is quite exhilarating due to it not feeling structurally built to even be a drop, and the optional jump over the giant pit can feel terrifying due to the gaping black void below.
So, why is it not higher?
I'm getting to that. Although the track does have plenty of stuff going on, Wario Colosseum is still just a series of linear roads with almost no ways to diverge off the beaten path. Nintendo barely even tries to hide it either with some interesting scenery. It's just chain roads for the entire runtime of the track. And because of that, it means I have to listen to this ear-grating sound effect the entire goddamn time. Isn't that just so fun? And even though the track feels like a chaotic theme park ride, I mean it's Double Dash, even if Wario Colosseum is one of the best in that regard, most of the time when you play Double Dash it already feels extremely frantic. I wouldn't say it's exactly a unique trait. Wario Colosseum is a track I like, but I think could also use some tweaks to reach the perfection status some people seem to hold it at. People like this bitch. So, if you will, hear me out. Dry Desert by no means is an impressive track, not at all, but I wouldn't say it's bad either. Don't get me wrong, Dry Desert has some flaws, with the most notable being how uninspired it debatably is, but I think the majority of that stigma just comes from the garbage Mario Kart 8 remake where they removed all the most charming bits in favor of a pointless water section, in addition to painting the entire track in an ugly beige hue. So if we remove the 8 remake from the picture, what's the Double Dash one like? Well, the colors for Star are significantly more appealing, with the darker yellows and oranges contrasting very much with the road in a way that's decently appealing to the eyes. Alongside that, Dry Desert and Double Dash has a bit more character thanks to Double Dash putting eyes on all the scenery. Moreover, the giant piranha plant plus moving tornado helped to give Dry Desert a bit more personality. Finally, I don't think there's any part of the track layout-wise I genuinely distaste. The swervy beginning is relatively fun, going all the way around the giant sand hole isn't half bad, and the pokies most of the time actually make for fairly good hazards in most of the sections they reside in. Furthermore, even if a track is unexciting, Dry Desert is one of like 2 tracks in Double Dash where mushrooms feel insanely powerful, which unlike in 8 is a unique niche to Dry Desert, making it feel quite satisfying to pull off. It also makes Toad insanely broken, but I don't care because we fuck with Toad. Dry Dry Desert isn't anything impressive, but unlike the last few maps, it's also quite consistent in terms of being good quality, and for me, I'm willing to overlook its lackluster theme if it means a consistently good racing experience. I wish I liked this one more, cause Bowser's Castle should just be 2 laps, oh my lord. Yeah, it has the same problem Rainbow Road has, where it's obnoxiously long. And since I'm bringing this up for the second time now, I'll elaborate on why I personally believe 3 minutes is too much. 3 minutes may not seem like very much time at first, but then compare it to Sherbet Land, and Mushroom Bridge, and Luigi Circuit, and Daisy Cruiser, and Dino Junk. Okay, I think you get the point. Most tracks in Double Dash aren't this unbearably long, so when they do start becoming twice as long as a regular track, then for me, by lap 3, I'm bored out of my mind. I just want to move on to the next track. I'm done. And it's such a shame because Bowser's Castle being 2 laps would fix the problem entirely, alongside letting me be able to appreciate how cool of a map it really is. The hazards are genuinely difficult to avoid. The thwomps take up most of the road, forcing you to hug the wall to weave past them. Squeezing in between the fireballs in order to take the cleanest line possible can feel really intense at times due to how close it sometimes gets. And the Bowser statue's fireballs occasionally blocking the shortcut at the end create a great risk-reward element that I adore. There are so many good aspects for Bowser's Castle. It's just sometimes hard to appreciate those great aspects when by lap 3, I want out. A real shame. I still like Bowser's Castle, I just wish I could like it more. Some tracks in Double Dash are very highly praised by a lot of the fandom. Naturally, that's going to mean that there's going to be a lot of disagreement as well. But out of every track in Double Dash, by far the most overrated one has to be DK Mountain. I will say this right from the start, it's scored 8th. I do like DK Mountain, but it's definitely not good enough in my opinion to where it's worth bringing back 3 other times. Let's open with the positives though. DK Mountain, when going down it, has a very bumpy feel. You know, like if you were to rush down a mountain in real life, a very sensible thing to do. That bumpy feeling gives DK Mountain a ton of character, and for example, near the grey rocky area, spices up sections which would otherwise be quite mundane. Jumping over the gap is also far more situational and difficult in Double Dash, unlike in following games where it was too easy and felt required to take in order to not be passed by the entire lobby. Here it feels far more rewarding to pull off. Furthermore, that turn feels thrilling to take because of the crack in the floor making the road far smaller, forcing you to practically hug onto the bank turn's edges created by the terrain, made interesting due to Double Dash being so slippy. But really, the 3rd U-turn of 4 back-to-back U-turns? Don't get me wrong, I do like the U-turns, and I'd argue they fit the theme quite well, but with the way DK Mountain is structured, at times it can feel like the level's pacing is all over the place. Like, after putting down your GameCube controller for 50 years, you then go through a relatively simple beginning of the mountain before boom, U-turn, 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 U-turn. It feels very disorganized in that regard. And what are these boulders here for? They don't ever get in your way, they do nothing. Finally, I wish DK Mountain had some actual more accessible alternate routes for like the mushrooms and stuff. The mud at the beginning barely cuts off anything, resulting in most of the catch-up items feeling worthless. DK Mountain is a track I do like, certainly. The mountainous theme is used extremely well, but even then, I don't think it's free from flaws. Peach Beach has to be one of the most sexual maps in the series. I can't tell if I want the peach or the beach. This track is certainly one I've had a fairly rocky history with over the years, and whilst I still don't like Peach Beach in Wii, dare I say, it's quite shit. Peach Beach in Double Dash is a track I actually really enjoy. To start off, the tide gimmick actually works really well in Double Dash thanks to the game's extremely slippery controls, making adjusting your position in a way which doesn't send you flying into a cataquack a bit more challenging. The slidey nature of Double Dash also makes drifting around the rising tides more interesting. Shrooming through the water and cutting off loads of the track is also quite fun and empowering. Ending off the track is also a moving set of item boxes, which always creates for extremely intense and exciting moments as you try and snag a last minute red shell to potentially screw over your rival at the line. Alongside that, the track is just really pretty. I'm not just talking about the funny rock, shut up. I'm talking about how nicely the colours pop. It makes Peach Beach really stand out. Overall, Peach Beach is an excellent Mushroom Cup track, and I'm glad I was able to appreciate it more over time. Even if you don't like this track, you gotta at least admit that Double Dash's Mario Circuit is one of the best circuit courses in the series. Wait, why does that course icon have Mario in the most NPC-ass pose? Luckily for me, I'm quite fond of the circuit courses. They may be simple on the surface, but their layouts tend to be relatively balanced with a perfect amount of obstacles, turns, and shortcuts. And that is no different with this variation of Mario Circuit. For example, the hazards on this track flow great with the course's general layout. The chain jump adds a risk-reward element to what would otherwise be a fairly boring turn by occasionally attacking the area by the inside line, spicing up this opening area. Adding on to that, another example would be the Goombas being immediately followed after the bumpy section. As a result, you'd likely be entering the Goomba-infested battlefield with a less than preferable line, generating a fun rush as you try and course correct yourself to not go barreling off the track. And whilst the piranha plants at the end of the track certainly aren't the biggest threat, they can definitely mess you up if you don't release your drift before the bridge carefully at the right time. Nearly every hazard succeeds at what it aims to do, which I really enjoy. Another reason I like Mario Circuit is because it's quite bendy, most evident by the first few turns being just that, creating a layout that's extremely fun to drift boost through. Combine that with a theme I'm certainly fond of due to me liking the vibrant happy nature of most Mario circuits, and Double Dash's take on this concept certainly stands out to me in all the right ways. Great job. Did you know Yoshi's Circuit is shaped like a Yoshi? Mushroom Bridge is a very fun track for the most obvious reasons imaginable. For starters, the traffic, aka the main gimmick of the course, is flooded everywhere on a track that is very small and condensed, meaning there's almost always cars to be seen. I particularly like the mushroom cars, since successfully hitting one and snagging its mushroom requires quite the investment from the player, in return for a very worthwhile reward. And for the other reason I like it, the bridge itself is just perfection. I may be able to stand on the bridge through the art of lousily slapping a PNG into my editing software, but in game, trying to stay on the bridge can actually be extremely challenging, thanks in part to Double Dash's slippery movement, but also because of the boosts and how narrow it is. And I know, I'm pretty sure that the bridge isn't that much faster than the main route, but let's be real, everyone just takes it anyway because pulling it off is cool as shit. The Donkey Kong CPU may have gone first, but I crossed the bridge without falling off, so who really won here? Opening up the top 3 is Dino Dino Jungle. Damn, they cooked with this one. Being just a jungle track, you'd presume that Dino Dino Jungle wouldn't have much going on, when in reality, it's probably one of the most varied tracks in the game, and potentially the entire franchise. To show what I mean, if we go through the track chronologically, you have sections where you fly off fallen logs to get item boxes, risk getting trampled by a dinosaur for an extra item, a split path with a surprisingly difficult fast path, narrow roads crammed with geysers, avoiding the head of a dinosaur whilst on the guardrail-less bridge. You get the gist. Dino Dino Jungle excels in variety. There's never a boring moment on it or a single segment that feels made to pad out the track's runtime. There's always something new. I especially noticed a theme of optional harder routes with worthwhile rewards at the end, such as the previously mentioned bridge giving you the fastest line, or the rampaging Noshi giving you an extra item box. Theming wise, a prehistoric jungle is really cool, and the amount of locations you visit is astounding. Dino Dino Jungle is even difficult to get through unscathed, which is very rare for Mario Kart. However, for a track this unique and difficult, why is the music so generic? Here, take a listen real quick. I didn't care about this as much with DK Mountain, but Dino Dino Jungle, with how much is going on, definitely deserves a much faster and more intense song than just some boring as hell drums on repeat the entire time. If the music wasn't this boring and arguably unfitting, Dino Dino Jungle would certainly be in contention for number 1. But regardless, it's still a phenomenal track. I love it. We only got 2 tracks left now, so the question is, which one got snubbed from the top spot? Well, that's pretty simple to answer, because I'm sure there's one track that's been on your mind since the start of the video, that being Sherbetland. I'm not the most certain on this, but I'm pretty sure that Sherbetland is quite unpopular on Double Dash, due to how ridiculously slippery the ice physics are. For me though, that is Sherbetland's best trait. I'm sure it's been made clear throughout the video already, but I personally think one of Double Dash's best traits is how slidey it is, so a track that is going to amplify that to the extreme was certainly going to be on my radar, and Sherbetland succeeds with flying colours. Particularly, I'd like to highlight the final stretch with the freezies. The freezies are laid out in front of you ahead of time, and are stationary so it never feels undeserved when you get hit by one, but the ice physics combined with the item chaos can also make them still be a hassle to avoid, giving the track's final portion tons of suspense and excitement. Even then, for all those people still quivering at the sight of ice, oh what the fuck is that? Sherbetland also has plenty of sections sections which drive normally. Those sections tend to be great when it comes to atmosphere, especially the cave, showcasing Sherbetland's whimsical tone with all the beautiful reflections coming from the walls. It's quite delightful. Overall, Sherbetland is a joyful little snow course where its gimmick of increasing Double Dash's slippy nature works incredibly. However, it isn't number one, and I think it's about time we wrap this whole thing up. So about number one, I would do an overdramatic transition to what it actually is, but there's only 16 tracks in this game and you probably already know what it is. Instead, how about I show you this? Mainly because I don't really want Mushroom City to come back. Mushroom City.
And then you hate it as well? No, round of applause! What the hell? Boo! I'm playing Mushroom City one whole time and I disagree with this take more than anything else said so far. I think it's just... I don't know how you can't enjoy, like, weaving through traffic firstly.
I said that when referring to it coming back in the new game, not for my thoughts on the Double Dash one. This is going to be my Crash Out arc. Mushroom City is incredible though. Set within a bustling metropolis, Mushroom City sees you navigating through traffic similar to Bridge, but this time with far more variety. For example, near the beginning, the track has you weaving between multiple different intersections, creating a dynamic where instead of just looking for the cars straight ahead of you, you also have to look out to the left and the right in order to not get screwed. The beginning section also feels like a maze at times with the amount of alternate routes in a similar way to Peach Gardens. Mushroom City even has plenty of turns to the point where combined with the cars, it can sometimes make the task of evading the traffic a teensy bit demanding. Finishing the track is a straightaway with vehicles and item boxes flowing down. Thanks to the item boxes, the game gives you an incentive to sometimes attempt going near a car, in order to get a last second catch-up item, giving the section some more thrill. In general, Mushroom City uses its traffic exceptionally, to make the races always feel energetic and interesting. Helping that is the track's general vibe. The city looks grand but compact. The dark colours on their own give Mushroom City a shady atmosphere. However, the catchy music instead makes you feel pumped. As a result, it makes weaving around the cars make you feel like even more of a badass. Mushroom City has to be one of the best tracks ever made. It's absolutely wonderful in every aspect and does almost nothing wrong. What an outstanding map. Anyways, that's my ranking. I'll flash the entire list on screen now. It's a relatively solid track selection. But what's your favorite track from Double Dash? Do you agree with my list? Let me know down below. And obviously subscribe and stuff if you enjoyed, blah 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 blah. Okay, bye.